The challenge is it's going to take you at $308 per month, Nancy, to get up to my goal of $7,500 for your emergency savings. It's going to take you nearly a year to do that at $308 a month. So here's my last question for you. With your mortgage payment today, do you have any surplus at the end of the month, anything left over, or are you kind of spending right up to the edge?
Well, I'm not at the edge. I have been working part-time, and so that part-time ended yesterday, and that's my concern. If I drop down to just my retirement money that's coming in, and that's $1,536 monthly,
yeah,
and that's not going to be enough.
So with
my retirement benefits.
I see. Okay, so actually, if you just continued on this plan, you'd start having to pull out of savings just to balance the budget with you not working. Is that right?
I believe so.
Yeah, but if you got rid of the mortgage, you think you could make it work. You just wouldn't really have much left over.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think you're right on the edge here. I mean, I don't love this plan, but I can't think of a better option because you are in a brand new home. You still will have $4,000, which is less than I'd like, but it's something, and you're going to be adding, no, you're not going to be adding $300 a month. So you're going to do this just to balance the budget, which means $4,000 is all you would have. And then what happens when you get that new property tax assessment, your property taxes, go up to $3,000 a year or more. And so what if you had to pull $2,000 or $3,000 out of that $4,000, and now you're down to just barely breaking even. And at that point, if something unexpected comes, now you're putting it on the credit cards or having to take out another loan. So what about continuing to work part-time? Is that an option?
It is.
Okay, I think that's my best option. I think I'd wait until you get another job part-time and continue to make the mortgage payment like you are, get that other job, and then if you get the job, we could take and pay off the mortgage, save the $300 a month. But I think right now, I'm concerned about you depleting all of your savings, not having, if you don't get another job, not having, very much left, knowing that this big property tax bill is coming. I just wouldn't feel great about that. I mean, if you had confidence you could find something, you could go ahead and pay off the mortgage to balance the budget, but I wouldn't wait to get that new part-time job, because I think you need some more cushion to build that savings back up to where I'd feel good that you're not kind of just running too lean. Does that make sense?
And the only thing was, there's this loan payment that I have that I'm responsible for now, and I've been putting an extra $1,000 on my principal every month. So I'm thinking now if I paid that off, the $1,000 would go into my savings.
Okay, yeah, that's new information. So you're paying $1,000 more every month on your mortgage, which means you're going to have. I mean, so help me with that. If your mortgage goes away and you don't have the 308 payment, you are still going to, and you stopped. So you'd have $1,300 a month. You're telling me extra?
That's the way it was before my income changed on yesterday. So, but that's what I have been paying. Initially, the mortgage payment was $866 with the original loan and numbers.
Okay.
So I just kept it like that, even though the escrow analysis reduced my mortgage. Instead of paying less or what they assessed it at, I put more on it. I started.
Okay. All right, makes sense. So here's what I would say. We got to get that part-time job back. So you need to go find some more work. We're just too lean. Of you eliminating that income, you just don't have enough cushion. So I'm okay with you paying off the house, but only if you go get that other part-time job, okay? Because we need to build that savings back up. And without you having any other income other than your Social Security, it's just too lean, and something's going to come out of left field, and you're not going to have the resources for it. I hope that helps you, Nancy. Thanks for being on the program today. Let's go to Pennsylvania. Hi, Ellen. Go ahead.
Hi. My brother and I were talking. He's 66 and plans to work till he's 70 and wants to be able to save in some kind of fund to, like after he's gone, to help his adult autistic son. He's in like a group home, like a dorm building.
Yes. So so the best way to do that, I mean, there's something called an ABLE account, ABLE, which is very easy to set up, very low cost. The problem is, you're going to run into the limits on that pretty quickly, and if it needs to last him the rest of his life, you may not be able to put enough in there, and so that then involves something a little more complicated and costly, but will serve him well, which is a special needs trust. And you'd want to go to an attorney who specializes in this area. Your brother would set it up, or the two of you'd fund it with either cash or assets or investments or whatever it is. The individual with the special needs would be his adult son would be named as the beneficiary. And then one of the key features is that it's structured in a way that preserves the beneficiary's eligibility for means-tested government benefits. So it keeps the trust assets separate from his son's own assets. It limits the control and his control over the trust, but it doesn't count as a resource for the purposes of determining eligibility for benefits like Medicaid and SSI. So it's a complicated process. It's going to be, it's going to probably cost you a few $1,000s, but it'll set him up so that when you and your brother are gone, his son will have the assets he needs once it's funded, and it'll work well with the government assistance that'll be available. Does that make sense?
Great. Yep. That's what we were wanting.
So it's called a special needs trust, and you're going to want to connect with an estate attorney to get that drawn up. Thank you for calling, Ellen. We appreciate it. To Indianapolis. John, go ahead.
Yes, Rob. Appreciate the ability to call in here.
Sure.
My wife and I have been paying for long-term care insurance for about 15 years now. We're in our mid to late 70s. There's been a class action suit against the long-term care company, informing us that the company's rating now is C++, with the note that means that they're marginally able to pay for future. And so they're forecasting, even though we've had some pretty significant increases in these long-term care payments in the last decade, they're forecasting more to come. So they've offered some options. At this particular point in time, I don't know what the overall state of the industry is, but it's concerning enough that we're wondering if we should not canceling the account, but they offer some reduced options, and I guess the question is, what kinds of things should we be thinking about to make a decision about what we should do?
Yeah. Wow, that's a tough one because I don't like that C++ rating at all. There's been a lot of consolidation in the industry, and we're left with a much smaller group of long-term care insurers that are really committed to this space and have the financial health to do it. There have been a lot of increases across the board in these premiums, in some cases dramatic increases, and that's just in line with what's going on in healthcare. The cost of healthcare is up dramatically, and these policies that are funding that are having to go up with it. And so it's affected, what's going on just in the long-term care insurance space. But there are some clear leaders in this space. And so I think the question is, do you have the option to move over to one of those policies, or is it going to be too cost prohibitive for you just based on your age to try to start that process over? If you were to cancel the policy or let it lapse, I'm assuming there's nothing that would come back to you. Is that right?
Well, they actually, two of the options are to make no more payments at all, and but to reduce the almost $500,000 benefit at this point to about 20% of that, but then lock in for that total amount, not have to pay anything more. That obviously assumes that the company remains solvent.
Yeah,
if we
exactly.
wind up needing to tap it. So that's where that's at.
Sure.
I mean, we have a pension that is very strong, so that if we were in long-term care facility, we'd be able to handle that. So I don't have to rely on an IRA or anything like that for it.
Okay.
Yeah,
I mean, that may be your best option. I'm hesitant to say that that's definitively the right option, just because I don't know what the company is. I don't know what the options are, but I don't like the C++ rating on top of these dramatic premium increases. So I wouldn't continue just at a surface level, I wouldn't continue to throw more and more money at it. I think I'd probably be more inclined to stop paying and just ride it out with a greatly reduced benefit. But I think before I made that decision, I mean, you've got a lot invested here. I'd probably get an independent agent who specializes in long-term care to look at this with you, help you make a good choice. If you don't have one, I'd reach out to a certified Kingdom advisor there in Indianapolis on our website at faithfi.com. Click Find a Professional. Any of them could refer you to an insurance agent who's independent, who's a long-term care insurance specialist. I'd do that before I made the final decision. Sorry about this, John. I know this is tough. Thanks for your call. I'm Rob West. On behalf of my team today, Devin Patrick, Taylor Stanridge, and Autumn sitting in, handling our phones today. On behalf of our entire team at Faith Fi, may the Lord bless you. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
The views and opinions expressed in this broadcast may not necessarily reflect those of the American Family Association or American Family Radio.
90.5 KTXG Greenville, Dallas.
For the party. Awesome. Not really. I went to try it on, but Emma, there was a man in there. A man? I told customer service, but they said it's our policy. What?
Target allows men into women's restrooms and changing areas. The American Family Association is calling for a boycott of Target until they reverse this misguided policy. Sign the pledge at afa.net.
This is American Family Radio, a listener-supported ministry of the American Family Association.
American Family News, I'm Rusty Pugh. 8 Tajikistan nationals connected with ISIS were arrested in the United States. Alexis McAdams reports.
Those 8 Tajik nationals are in ICE custody this morning after they were arrested. A source telling me that a majority were arrested right here in New York City. Exactly where in the city, we're still trying to figure that out. So in just the last few days, the group of Tajik nationals, who investigators tell us have ties to ISIS, were taken into custody. The 8 men, all from Tajikistan. So how did they enter the United States in the first place is the question. Sources telling Fox they crossed illegally at the southern border and were, quote, fully vetted. But listen to this, nothing was flagged somehow.
Trump and Biden voters have different views on some family and marriage matters.
The Pew Research report on cultural issues in the 24 election finds Trump supporters are 3 times more likely to believe society is better off if people prioritize marriage and having children. 59% of Trump supporters agreed, just 19% of Biden backers. 3/4 of Biden supporters say there are still significant obstacles that make it harder for women to get ahead. Trump supporters feel the exact opposite. 70% say the obstacles to women are largely gone. Trump supporters were more than twice as likely as Biden voters to see the falling birth rate as bad for society. And women in general are still uncomfortable with women keeping their last name. 44% of men for Trump, 15% of men for Biden. Therese Crowley, Fox News.
Attorney General Merrick Garland blasting the criticisms against the DOJ in a Washington Post op-ed on Tuesday. Garland claims the department has been seeing an increased threat by supporters of former President Trump amid investigations into allegations of overturning the results of the 2020 election. RNC co-chair Laura Trump, however, says many residents are concerned of the department being weaponized against Trump.
He's the Attorney General of the United States. We can't live in a country if we do not trust our foundational institutions like this, and people are terrified right now.
Republican lawmakers speaking to reporters after holding a deposition against former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo regarding his response to the COVID-19 pandemic. New York Congressman Mike Lawler calling Cuomo a fraud and a phony, as well as criticizing his mandate that made nursing homes admit patients who tested positive for COVID.
He put our most vulnerable population at risk, resulting in the death of over 15,000 seniors. And it was Andrew Cuomo who covered it up.
A pro-family group sees more than one positive in a ruling from a state judge. Chris Woodward explains.
Judge Jackson Lofgren ruled this month that he will not issue a preliminary injunction against North Dakota's ban on the gender manipulation of minors. Mark Jordan of North Dakota Family Alliance.
Stop the law from going into effect. It was effect in November last year. That failed. And when they tried once again to do it, and it failed the second time. And the significance the judge has to think that there's a high likelihood that the case, if it moved forward, that the plaintiffs would prevail. So essentially what it's saying is we're not going to give you a temporary injunction because we don't think the case will probably be successful. So that's a really positive thing. It's not just the fact that they can't stop the law from, functioning as it has been, but it also portends good things for those of us who have gotten the law into place.
George Smith says gender dysphoria is real, but most children grow out of it, and several European countries have moved away from gender manipulation procedures and therapies. I'm Chris Woodward.
There's no relief in sight yet for high interest rates. Federal Reserve officials today will likely make official what's been clear for many weeks. With inflation sticking at a level above their 2% target, they're downgrading their outlook for interest rate cuts. More news available online at afn.net and on the AFN mobile app. I'm Rusty P.
Interested in seminary but don't think it will work in this season in life? Wesley Biblical Seminary offers flexible options that allow you to take classes live no matter where you are. At WBS, we don't just educate people, we develop trusted leaders for faithful churches. It's time for you to respond to the calling God has on your life. Take classes from an institution that you can trust for a calling that will not go away. Learn more about your opportunities at wbs.edu. That's wbs.edu.
Welcome to today's issues. Join us for the next hour as we offer a Christian response to the issues of the day. Here's your host, Ed Vitagliano.
And welcome everyone to today's issues. Ed Vitagliano sitting in for Tim Wildman this week. I'm joined in studio by Wesley Wildman. Good morning to you.
Good morning. It is a beautiful day here in Tupelo, Mississippi. Over this past weekend, we were here in Oxford, Tupelo area, all within about 45-minute drive, and it was hot and muggy.
Yeah.
But it's to be expected because it was in June.
Yeah.
But surprisingly, yesterday and today, it's been high 70s, low 80s, and breezy and really
nice.
Very
almost
nice.
Almost like spring.
Almost like but as we say in Mississippi, and I'm sure other states in the South say it, if you don't like the weather, just hang on.
It'll change.
Just give it a couple days. So looking forward to the program today.
Absolutely. Fred Jackson is also in studio. Good morning, Fred.
Yes, enjoyed my morning walk. I go for a walk about 5 o'clock in the morning.
Good.
Okay.
Because you're
61 degrees.
There you go. I knew it was cool.
Oh, it felt wonderful.
Perfect. Yeah.
Yes.
A little bit of a breeze.
Because we didn't have much of a spring, to be honest.
No.
So that's kind of spring-like weather.
Well, to Wesley's point, the prediction for about 3 days from now is a high of 96.
There you go.
So it was nice while it lasted.
Yes, that's right. Hey, it is June 12th. You guys remind me, because tomorrow's my anniversary. Do not let me forget this.
Okay.
So
writing it down now.
Yes.
Put that in the show notes, Adam. Adam's our producer today.
I actually thought about texting my wife
to remind you.
No, to tell her, hey, happy anniversary tomorrow.
Just in case you were to forget.
In case I were to forget. Tomorrow, I'd say, well, look, I remembered yesterday. So
I thought you were going to say you were going to text her to remind you to remind you of y'all's anniversary tomorrow.
No, because I want her to forget.
That's right.
I want her to forget, and then I get to put that card in the deck of things that I can throw out. If I forget something important, I say, well, at least I didn't forget our anniversary.
Hey, okay, before we're going to get to some serious stuff. We got plenty of news to cover, but a quick question for you, marriage question. How long would you, if that card was available, how long would you hold it? And how long would it be usable?
Well, the problem is my wife holds so many of those kinds of cards.
The value of it's not really.
That's right. I throw that down. She can throw 3 or 4 down on top of it.
Okay, so she wins the card.
Bad hand of Uno or something. So
that's the only question I got. Marriage question I got for today.
And to be honest, we after this will be 43 years of marriage tomorrow.
Congratulations.
Well, thank you. And we actually don't do a whole lot for those kinds of events.
Sure.
You know, we wish each other happy birthday. We might go out to eat or something like that.
Yeah.
That kind of thing, at least for us, just a long time ago, stopped being something you reminded the other person of if you forgot.
That's it. Yeah. All right.
Anyway,
Ed has all kinds of stories like this, how he goes all out for Christmas.
That's right.
We don't
What
even
is
get
it, a gift card?
we don't even get each other Christmas presents.
Yeah.
And this Christmas is now all about the grandkids.
That's right. At this point, yeah.
I will tell you this. This is sad. This is just a sad story. We were in the. I've been in the pastorate for many years, and most of those years were not, well paid.
Sure.
Okay, kind of thing. And I remember one year, my whole side of the family was going to Dallas for Christmas.
Yeah.
And my wife and we could get the kids Christmas, but we actually didn't have money to get each other Christmas. So this is sad and kind of pathetic.
Could you, Adam, turn up the violins there?
Violins. I gave my wife a couple of books off my bookshelf and had her wrap those up for me.
Oh, wow.
So we would have something to open because everyone was going to be opening presents. So
take you back a little.
Yes. Yeah. So I know that's sad, folks, and I hope you all feel badly for my wife and I. Hey, I do want to make mention before we get to serious stuff. NBA legend Jerry West, dead at 86. He was my favorite player for years and years, and I actually was a Lakers fan till, I don't know, 10 or 11 years old, because I loved Jerry West. And of course, all my relatives were Boston Celtics fans.
Of course.
I switched back to the Celtics when he retired, Jerry West. But
what position did he play? I'm not familiar with him.
He was a guard, I think. He was he really was legendary. In fact, the logo for the NBA, that's an image of Jerry West.
I didn't realize that. Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, if that's the case, yes, he is a legend, even if I don't recognize his name because he's before my time.
Right.
Could I recognize the logo for sure?
Yes, that's right.
Interesting.
So anyway, wrapped up his playing career averaging 27 points, 6.7 assists, 5.8 rebounds per game. Among retired players, only Michael Jordan, Wilt Chamberlain, and Elgin Baylor had higher averages. So anyway, I saw that when I came in here to the studio on Fox News. So anyway, it's one of those things where someone of note passes away. And anyway, on to the serious news of the day, Fred.
Yes, under the heading, it was only a matter of time. And I would say if I had a dime for every time we talked about the possibility of what you're going to hear in this story happening, we'd be all very rich.
Yes.
In the last 3.5 years, we have drawn attention to Joe Biden's open border policy on our southern border.
Right.
And not an exaggeration, millions have invaded this country since Joe Biden took basically any restrictions away.
Right.
One of the major concerns has been for the last 3.5 years that amongst particularly the young men, we have noted a large percentage of those coming in are young men from all over the world.
Right.
The Middle East, from China and others. Well, the big news this morning is that we are learning that 8 people with Islamic State terrorist ties have just been arrested in the U.S. All of them crossed the border illegally, turned themselves in then to authorities at the border. They were vetted by the border and then released. But due to the good work of the FBI, they were tracking conversations on social media is what we believe. One of the social media posts mentioned bombs. And that's when they really started tracking these guys. They are believed, all of them, from Tajikistan. They are with a terrorist group tied to a number of other incidents around the world. They were arrested, most of them in New York, some of them in Philadelphia, and some in Los Angeles.
One of the FBI agents that was interviewed about this, when talking about when they decided to bring him in, there was enough of what is it when they have a piece of audio equipment inside a place and they're listening in? What is that exactly called?
You mean,
when the
so
FBI,
not a wiretap.
A wiretap,
Okay,
yeah.
yes.
In the wiretap, is because they started thinking along the way they were just talking, that them being the terrorists or tied to terrorism, was that it sounded like another Boston Marathon bombing type of the way they were talking. They started to tie things together like that, and that was one of the reasons. So if you remember back to the Boston Marathon bombing, those are the types of instances that can happen when you allow terrorists to come through your country.
Yeah, actually, a wiretap would be, I think, on a phone.
Okay,
but they would have other kinds of listening devices.
Sure.
Inside. So,
retired Army Major General Dana Petard was on Fox this morning, and he said the obvious. This is what happens when the border is open. Cut 4.
The fact that these 8 ISIS suspects got through our southern border really is a travesty. I mean, the good news is that the FBI's Joint Terrorism Task Force were the ones who detected them. They were on their radar overall. And then ICE, Immigration Customs Enforcement Agency, was able to arrest them. So that's a good thing, that there's better coordination between our agencies. But what's obviously a travesty is the fact that they